Coming up on the Sky News Daily, the final parts of our look back at the royal year, how Harry and Meghan have navigated being royal outsiders, and the prince's continuing battle with the tabloids. Back in a moment.
The world is becoming increasingly complex and volatile. How can we make sense of it all?
I'm Richard Engel.
And I'm Yalda Hakim.
And we present Sky News' latest podcast, The World. Each week, we'll cut through the noise to guide you through the week's global events and explain to you why what happens out there matters to you wherever you are.
We're on the ground in some of the world's toughest places. Listen now to The World with Richard Engel and me, Yalda Hakim, wherever you get your podcasts.
Prince Harry and the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan by another name, well, they may no longer be working royals, but they certainly haven't left the headlines.
Anything I say about my family results in a torrent of abuse from the press. I've made it very clear that this is something that needs to be done. It would be nice if we did it as a family.
We have uncovered and proved the shockingly dishonest way in which the Mirror acted for so many years and then sought to conceal the truth.
With a new Netflix series out about polo, Harry has kept up his fight with the papers over unlawful information gathering. Our royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills is back in the studio. Let's turn to two people who, again, like Seal, only go by their first name, Harry and Meghan. Quite the year they've had. Actually, wait a minute. It's 1, 2, 3... Quite the 5 years they've had since they left.
Yeah. In January, it's going to be 5 years since they threw that grenade at about 10 to 6 one evening to say that they'd had enough. They wanted to leave royal life. And it's still fascinating to see how that new life is playing out. I think I probably thought by now we'd have a bit of a better idea about how they were going to make it work. It still very much feels like work in progress, though.
Well, where are they right now in terms of, are they a lifestyle brand? Are they a business advice guru partnership? Yeah. Are they podcast makers? Are they documentary makers? Are they professional red carpet attendees? What
Bit
are
of
they?
Everything by the looks of it. I think it's what other members of the royal family do. They're quite clear about the themes that they're trying to tap into. So with Meghan, kind of female empowerment. Harry, of course, the military, Invictus Games. They've also been doing stuff around young people and the dangers of social media. The thing is with them, they've got to make money. So that's why you kind of are seeing all these different offshoots, whether it is Netflix and their Polo docuseries.
Clearly they are still trying to work out what their role is and indeed how they are seen across the Atlantic, seen here. But they've been out and about a fair amount. I mean, there have been a few tours under the belt.
Yeah, and that's what's made this year a bit different, is that there's kind of been these, what some people call sort of royal light tours, where they've been invited to the likes of Nigeria and Colombia. When they've been over there, of course, it's been ticking off the things that matter to them that I've just sort of listed. The Nigeria trip was very much linked to the Invictus Games. And then Colombia, it was because the vice president had kind of seen Meghan and seen the Netflix documentary where they talked about the royal family and wanted Meghan to visit. And the countries have been interesting that they've chosen, because I think the countries have been keen to invite them because of the reflected glory of having kind of these high-profile celebrities attend.
Yeah, I mean, how are people viewing them? Because we tend to view them through the prism of everything that has happened in the royal family in the United Kingdom since the day I was born.
Look, I think we're a lot more cynical over here. I think people still can't forgive them for what they've said about the royal family, for, in effect, throwing Queen Elizabeth under the bus with the rest of the royal family in terms of their criticisms. I was speaking to an American TV producer the other day who said, actually, a bit of the shine is kind of wearing off over there as well. But certainly, journalists who followed them to Nigeria said there was a great deal of excitement because they are still high-profile celebrities. And people, look, even in this country, people can't get enough of talking about them. When Harry flew over here to mark the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games, there was this enormous clamour to try and find out where was he, how long was he going to be over here. People couldn't get enough of trying to chase him around London, the bit that he hates, of course, and wanting to know whether he was going to meet his dad or not. The interest around them has certainly not died down. But there's also been all this chat about whether he's been trying to ingratiate himself a bit more with people back in the UK and tapping up some of his old staff to kind of change the narrative a bit.
What are these tours for? Why? I mean, Colombia, for example, these are a pair that say that they're incredibly concerned about their personal security, and they head off to one of the murder capitals of the world.
And that was the big question around Colombia: is how can you say that you don't feel safe coming back to the UK, and yet you will go to Colombia? I spoke to a security expert around that who said, well, the only thing is they've been invited by the president, the vice president, and so they will have been offered a certain level of security, which they don't get when they come back here to the UK. And that, of course, is one of the kind of court cases that has been rumbling on with them. But look, what are these tours about? I think it's 4 or 5 days where they can be in front of the cameras. And what has been interesting about the tours is they've been very selective about who they've invited. And a lot of that argument is often around security. But I think it is that level of wanting to control the narrative. But yeah, they get 4 or 5 days where, look, we're interested in what they're doing.
Tell me why people who say that they are a couple who chose to leave the royal family, who are now cosplaying as senior royals, tell me why that's wrong.
Is it wrong? What I did think when I looked at them in Nigeria and Colombia is, did the royal family miss a trick, actually? Because they have got this ability to connect with a demographic that the likes of Camilla, Charles, William, Kate just don't connect with. So yeah, I think that was my main takeaway from those watching the pictures back. Also recently seeing Harry at the likes of the Well Child Awards, stuff that he's done with Scotty's Little Soldiers.
Of course, yeah.
He is brilliant with kids. He has this real natural rapport with people. I just think it's a great sadness that there has been that level of anger and bitterness, which kind of has shone through more than that. And I think at least with the tours, it gives them an opportunity to hopefully showcase what they're all about and maybe what the royal family missed out on.
What then, though, of the potential rapprochement, or kind of a reunification of the California branch of the House of Windsor with the rest of it? I mean, does he have a working relationship with his father right now? Do we know?
I will admit it is often shutters down when you try and ask any questions about the relationship, about phone calls, conversations, meetings. You might remember at the start of the year when the King announced that he had cancer, Prince Harry very quickly flew back over.
He did, yeah, he did.
There was a meeting with his father, which then didn't last very long. And then he was on a plane back out again. I think there's a couple of things going on. I suspect with the family, they are probably concerned about what they say to him. After all, don't forget Spare, the book. Don't forget the Netflix documentary. I suspect they are concerned that they will hear those things being repeated back. But also, when you speak to others at the palace, Harry's criticism was always, we were being briefed about. And so they don't want to fall into that trap either. So I think it's very difficult to know exactly what's going on. I just think it's really sad. Like, you watch back the pictures of William, Kate and Harry on engagements. They were brilliant engagements to do. They were a lot of fun. But also, yeah, with everything that's going on with the family. Around his 40th birthday, they did post on social saying happy birthday to him.
Rhiannon, just pause there. We'll be back in a second.
The world is becoming increasingly complex and volatile. How can we make sense of it all?
I'm Richard Engel.
And I'm Yalda Hakim.
And we present Sky News' latest podcast, The World. Each week, we'll cut through the noise to guide you through the week's global events and explain to you why what happens out there matters to you wherever you are.
We're on the ground in some of the world's toughest places. Listen now to The World with Richard Engel and me, Yalda Hakim, wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's turn it on its head. I mean, as you say, the documentary in which an awful lot of dirty laundry was aired in public, the autobiography as well.
The Oprah interview.
The Oprah interview, which kicked everything into the heavens. Yeah. I mean, if you were in Charles' shoes, you might not want to have a relationship.
Yeah. I just think it's deeply sad with everything else that's been going on with the family, that you've just seen this complete collapse, I suppose, of the family relationship, and that it's played out so publicly. We'll see. We'll just have to wait and see. But certainly it's very difficult to get any sense of what's going on.
But in 2025, one thing is certain, we are going to be seeing quite a lot of Harry, aren't we? I mean, the ongoing legal battles, it's not just one case, this, is it?
So there are other cases going on, but the one that we will be keeping our eyes on in January is against the Sun and News Group newspapers over allegations of unlawful information gathering.
Are we talking phone hacking?
No. So there's 30 different articles in the Duke's case. They may need 4 days to cross-examine him. And yeah, Harry is basically claiming that he was targeted by journalists and private investigators. But of course, the publisher denies those allegations. But yeah, it's extraordinary. He is like a dog with a bone. He is not going to let this one go.
He's fought it all the way, hasn't he?
Yeah, he sees it as his life's work to expose the wrongdoings of the tabloid media.
How successful has he been in that regard thus far?
So the Mirror, he was successful in that case. So yeah, so we wait to see what happens with the Sun.
But of course, coming back to this country, big question. I mean, will Meghan be coming with him?
I would probably place a bet no. The issue of security is a huge one for them. I was speaking to a new member of their team in London at the start of the year. The paranoia around their security is huge, and of course is part of this ongoing battle with the Home Office. Remind us what
that was all about. Yes. They basically said no, didn't they?
Yeah, so Harry, with other members of the royal family, is on this special protection list. He was on this special protection list. And then March 2020, when they went to, first of all, Canada, and then they went to America, they were taken off that list, which means that they don't get police protection when they come to the UK. He lost that case to start off with, but he has now been given the right to appeal against that decision. Their team referred to people who are currently in prison for threats against Harry and Meghan. They are genuinely concerned about their security when they come over here. And that is the main reason that they give when Meghan doesn't come here to the UK.
Because, of course, the interest in Meghan, I mean, public sentiment towards her may have waxed and waned over the years that she's been close to Harry and part of the royal family. But when it comes to situations like that, you've got to say there are still plenty of people in this country that would like nothing more than for the pair of them to return home and take up those royal duties again.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that people would want to see them.
No, I'm not saying a majority, but there are some.
I think they would like them to have a role here in the UK and be more engaged here in the UK. And yeah, as I said earlier, you do wonder sometimes whether it was how much of a loss it was to the royal family because that different demographic that they can connect with. But also, I think the interest in them continues to be huge because we're still trying to figure out what that new life looks like. So one of the latest things that's still going on is Meghan's American Riviera Orchard brand. And that's kind of going through all of the trademark issues at the moment. What's that going to look like?
Well, I mean, she's only produced 50 jars of jam so far, by my reckoning.
Jam, but also on the list, there's cookbooks, tableware, linens, and rosé wine. Apparently rosé wine, that's going to be the first thing that's going to be up for sale.
But that kind of just reminds me, there is a very strong relationship, obviously, between the two of them. There had been a strong relationship between Harry and his father. What about Harry and William? Because as someone with a brother himself, we've knocked lumps out of each other over the years. Now, I'm not suggesting that is what is happening right now between the two of them. But if it is sad that he is no longer speaking to his father, it is deeply, deeply sad there is a paucity of a relationship with his brother.
I'm not sure there is much of a relationship with his brother at the moment. Again, I've said it before, it's really difficult to find out what exactly is going on. But I get the sense that William felt that Harry went too far. The book, of course, Spare, talking about them having a fist fight, basically, and everything else that's been said. But yeah, so deeply sad when you think about everything they went through as brothers together, losing their mother.
Those years after Diana.
Horrendous. They had this brilliant working relationship as well as they grew up. I was always told that Harry would be William's wingman when he one day became king. And that just is now completely out of the question by the looks of it.
Just looking back on 2024, do you think when we speak again this time next year, we will be looking back and saying that 2024 was the year where the sheen came off the halo for Harry and Meghan, where the wheels came off the track?
I think there is still a section of audience who love them. I genuinely think there are people who will do everything they can to defend them on social media. I get it all the time. And feel that they were mistreated by this old-fashioned institution. What I think is going to be fascinating is just to see how this life plays out for them. You've got Harry investing a huge amount of time and money into all of these legal battles. You've got Meghan trying to set up a lifestyle brand. How much will she be criticised for kind of trying to hang on the coattails of still being a duchess and using that to promote her jam? And that, I think, was always going to be the issue, is how much were they going to exploit being members of the royal family for financial gain? I just still don't think we're entirely clear about how this new life is going to work. Although Harry did recently say that he is very happy living in America, and him, his wife and his children feel safe there. He seems to be settled, at least in this new life.
Rhiannon, always good to see you. Thanks very much.
Good to see you too.
And that's your lot for this edition of The Daily. If you've missed the 2 previous episodes where we focused first on Charles and Camilla and then on William and Kate, just scroll back where you found this one. And from all of us on the Sky News Daily team, we do hope you have a very Merry Christmas and wish you all the best for 2025. We'll see you again in the new year.
The world is becoming increasingly complex and volatile. How can we make sense of it all?
I'm Richard Engel,
And I'm Yalda Hakim.
and we present Sky News' latest podcast, The World. Each week, we'll cut through the noise to guide you through the week's global events and explain to you why what happens out there matters to you wherever you are.
We're on the ground in some of the world's toughest places. Listen now to The World with Richard Engel and me, Yalda Hakim, wherever you get your podcasts.